Okay, here we go, my friends. We're doing it. This time I'm going to do it for real, and I don't care what happens. And it's episode 19. I have Betty Jo Jacks, a good friend of mine, a breast implant survivor, a raconteur, a woman who can talk pretty much about anything and is involved in a lot of things, social justice, warrior in some way for herself and for those who have been survivors. We will be bringing her on any moment now. I will be adding to the comments everything that we are going to be talking about today in episode 19. This is going to be a badass episode. I tell you that right now. For those of you who are joined, I just want to say I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for coming in and watching. This will be a broadcast that is live, but you can watch it on Facebook, and you can also watch it on my YouTube channel at Paul David Carpenter, youtube.com/Paul David Carpenter. And we are bringing in Betty Jo Jacks. There she is. It's working finally.
I did go brush my hair at least.
What an adventure today has been. So, my dear, I've done a bit of an intro. I kind of expressed who you are and what you're all about. But if you would not mind, for the people at home, Betty Jo Jacks, who are you? Oh, she just left. Betty just left. We're going to add her in again. Don't touch anything, Betty. Let's get her in one more time. There she is. Okay, so this time, here we go. So Betty Jo Jacks, for everyone who doesn't know you, who are you, where do you come from, and what are you about, and let's go.
Well, I was born in Wyoming, and I left in the 80s at 23 to go to California, a really arm wrestling, pretty strong, independent woman, and by the time I got implants at age 43, I'd become completely plastic like California. Let's just say that. I lost my way. I don't know why I decided that implants were something that would make me of more value as a bartender. I was a bartender, started in my 20s at Gardini's Bar in Riverton, was an arm wrestling champ, thought I was going to go out to Wyoming or California and become an arm wrestling champ, went to one of the first competitions, watched a girl's arm break by another girl, and I went, no, we did it for fun in Wyoming. We ain't crazy like these chicks out here in California. No. Done. I retired my arm wrestling career. Started throwing darts. I went to third in the world throwing darts in California. I went to Vegas, took third in the world for Class C flight, and it was an experience, but it started a tennis elbow. But I had implants too. I didn't realize what implants were going to do to me. I had no idea. I was lied to. That's my hashtag, Stop the Lies. It's about cannabis. It's about breast implants. It's about COVID. It's about everything. Stop the lies. About aliens. I believe in aliens. I believe we are not alone. I believe our government is lying about a lot of things. I don't know how much we can say here on Facebook, but that's my personal opinion. Fact checkers. And
me personally, Betty, I have been a rule breaker on this thing that we talk about. This thing. I've been rule breaking the whole entire time. For some reason, I don't know what's going on. It's being left on. I have not had any strikes yet in 19 episodes, which is or 18 episodes, which is absolutely astronomical to me so far. I've been smoking, all kinds of stuff on camera, and so I have a weird feeling that somebody in the Facebook hierarchy likes me. It's the only way that I can put it, because look, that video of me with the swastika on my forehead where I'm like, I'm a white supremacist, the blackface, it's still on Facebook 9-10 years later. Moose, please. You know what I mean? And so
they get excited when we do our dogs.
It's a little scratchy the head, and that they're allowing me to do these kind of conversations that I'm having with people. And if you haven't watched the other episodes, heavy conversations,
right?
You know what I mean? So it's like, so let's get into that. Because a couple things that I didn't know about you, that you were into arm wrestling, that you did darts, had no idea.
over the road truck driver, it almost killed me with breast implants because of the constant jarring going down the road, the vibrations. I just kept getting sicker and sicker, and I was eating right, I was exercising. Over the road trucking almost did me in. I did it for 2 years. I drove all over the United States, across Canada. I got a CDL for my 50th birthday. I decided to just do it, sell my home, go live in a truck and become a trucker, right? I got out there, I started throwing up my vitamins. I was just sick, hurt. I could barely get through the day. The brain fog started to get out of control. I couldn't remember what state I was in when I woke up. I literally did not feel safe at some point out there. I felt like I would wake up not knowing where I'm at. I'm like, what's wrong with my brain? And I did finally get MRIs. My brain's okay. It's just completely implant related. Anytime you have a sliver or a foreign object in your body goes into fight or flight. When you stay in a constant state of fight or flight, you will get adrenal fatigue. You will become exhausted. And when you don't have good fuel and energy, your brain is atrophying. Whether it looks good on the MRI or not is a whole nother game. I don't know what's going on with our medical field, but they do not test for silicone in your blood, titanium in your blood, because they do not want to prove that you are rejecting their devices or that it's infiltrated your blood. They won't.
Right. Yeah, no, I was talking to somebody who, I'm not sure, I think it was Jamie Salinas yesterday, and we briefly spoke about, and if it wasn't him, it was the day before. I've been talking to so many people, but it was something to the effect of, we don't deal with the actual issue. We deal with what happens afterwards. And that was actually, it was 2 episodes ago, and it was a gentleman who had his brother who passed away, who had committed suicide. And since then, he's been on a mission to help people with mental health awareness. Another phenomenal episode. So
too about implants. You can't get PTSD for implants. No, you can get it from whatever traumatizes you the most. It's like that Jenga game where you pull out a little piece at a time, till finally that rack crumbles, right? Yeah, I was raped, I was molested, I was beat up by fathers, beat up by men. I should have had PTSD many years ago, but I said, I'm strong, I'm a woman, hear me roar, get out of my way, I'm gonna break glass ceilings, I'm not gonna let. So I was very judgmental on people with mental illness, because I thought, just get well, just change your thoughts, just eat better, you can do this. Until it happened to me. And when it happened to me, November 18th, when I went out to California in 2018 to bartend, I walked into this plastic surgeon's office that put my implants in. I looked him square in the face and said, these have never quit hurting. I got them out for this because today is my explant-versary. These have never quit hurting since I put them in my body, okay? And I hate touching them.
Is today really your implant anniversary?
Every 25th of the month, I call it an explant-versary. You know why? When they took this silicone off of my chest, my body tried to go back into having a cycle. 2 years with these in it, 43 by 45, I was in complete menopause. I was done. My body shut down early. I had a mental breakdown. I was in hospital with liver failure. I had to wear a heart monitor. I had kidney stones. I was hospitalized with everything. Nobody would ever pay attention to these on my chest. I want you to look at this. I'm going to put it up to the camera. I'm going to shake it. Wait, let me.
The bubbles?
No.
Yeah.
The back.
Oh, there's like stuff in there. Yeah. What is that?
That's probably my skin. You see this thing right here? This is a tab where they fill them at, right? It shouldn't be black. That means there was bacteria on it when they put it in my chest. So I have another picture, but I don't have access to it because it's on my phone, and I should probably go print one today for my live stream with Ashley Pinner. There's only one proper way, and it should be a golden rule how to get implants out, and some doctors are killing women by taking them out wrong. And what they have to do, they have to take it out like a big baseball. They have to cut you really wide to go in and start scraping all the scar tissue and take it out like a piece of art with all your tissue on it. don't leave any tissue behind, like the war. Don't leave any soldiers. You can't leave any scar tissue because it's all got silicone on it. So when they pull that out, he got it out and he started looking at it and he says, oh my God, she's got a double capsule. He was able to take his forceps and lift up a piece where there was air pockets where fluid was exchanging. It should be closed like this. Mine was like this because here's the sad story. 2003, I got implants. 2004, I went back because the implants were over under my arms. When he first put them in, he was concerned because they were raising up. So he had me bandage real tight with ACE around here. I said, the idea of getting boobs was to put them up here, not to push them down. He says, if we don't, they're going to be up here under your chin because the body was looking for the weakest area to push it out. Right? Sure. So I put elastic around here for 8 weeks, wore it. And then within a year, my implants were underneath.
Because that was the
side. Yep. So he cut me back open and he told me he was going to put in what was called a torpedo or a projectile implant, which was not a round. This is called a round Mentor Smooth. It's flat looking, but round, right? He said this was going to be a projectile and it would be more out front. This is the original implant that he took out, he put in me. He never changed and put in a sterile implant. He took this one out, cleaned it, put it back in. And he made for a double capsule. This is Dr. Dersham Shaw in Bakersfield, California. So when I went back in 2018 and said, because actually 2003 is when they had where they had to log everybody who got implants and keep track of their health because they had just got back on the market because they shut them down. He never touched base with me again.
Now mind you, was it the water-based? This is not the silicone plastic-based ones.
See, but that's where the big lie is. This shell is silicone. This is silicone. This is deadly silicone right here that as soon as you put it in your body, it starts to degrade. So do these plastic bags if you were to stick this in your body.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, most of us already have so much plastic in our blood, it's unbelievable. But then you take a arm wrestler and you go in and you tell her, I told him I wanted a B cup. He decided he wanted a D cup for me, not a B. He said, nobody ever wants to go smaller when they wake up. They want to go bigger. So I'm going to do you a favor and we're just going to go bigger. Well, he went in to cut me open and he couldn't get in. I didn't know they cut your pectoral muscle off your chest wall. Holy crap. That's why he told me. And if a doctor tells you not to go online and look about what's going to happen to your body, run as fast as you can. And I did not go look. I did not do my due diligence. If I'd have seen he cut my pectoral muscle, ripped it open and stuffed something in there, I'd have said, hell to the no. Ain't happening, right? So when he did that, he couldn't open me up, Paul. He got this much of a space and he had a boob this big. How's he going to get it in there? So he deflated it. He didn't put it all the way full, so it had ripples all the way around it. You could feel these ripples all the way around it. It was sloshy and full of water and ripply. It was botched. I could have went on the botched TV show for sure. Because I'm going to add this. I'm not vain, you guys. I've had 9 broken noses. And when I had the boobs done, I only did it so I could get my nose fixed. I had a piece of cartilage when I was 12 and they did a nose surgery because I had a deviated septum. They left a sharp piece of bone or cartilage right here. And I constantly had a wound because if it got touched, it broke the skin. So I just wanted him to scrape that off. You see these lines I have right here? That's from him pushing. I didn't know they take your nose and they cut it right here and they pull it back. So when he pulled it back, he squished it like this and he left these marks, right? And he said he was over his head. He didn't do his due diligence. He should have asked for an MRI or x-rays of my head because I had a complete collapsed sinus here. And he did his best to open it. He said he didn't even know how I was breathing. And because after the 12, I already had like 4, 5, 6, 7 more broken noses, whatever.
It's a story.
Right. And so when he sewed it back, it took so long. My face was so swollen. He sewed it back crooked. So I'm sewed back together crooked down here. So it was worse than it started. And so when he got to the boobs after the head, my body was already in complete trauma because he was in over his head. It was a 4 or 5 hour surgery. It should have been an hour surgery. Right. So guess what I had to do? I had to go to the hospital. I had to leave his surgery center, go to the hospital. I had to get a morphine drip because I was dying. I literally woke up from that surgery, Paul, in the audience, listen, I felt death on my chest. I cried, and I couldn't cry because my face was bandaged, my chest was bandaged, and I looked in the mirror and I started to cry. Nurse came in and said, "What's happening?" I said, "I paid for this. People getting car wrecks, and they never wanted this, and I paid for them to torture me like this for vanity." For, this one wasn't for vanity. It was just very uncomfortable. But I'm glad he did it. I could breathe for the first time when I went back to work, took a deep breath, and I got air in my head. I was at the kitchen, and I stepped into the walk-in, and I came out, and I said to the chef, "I got air in my head." He said, "Oh, you won't live that one down, Miss Airhead." It's like, but the first time I felt this cold up in here in my head, I'm like, I can breathe. So yes, I'm glad I had that portion done, but I had no idea what these breast implants were going to do to my health. When I was in the doctor's office telling him something's wrong, he says, "Look, your test results are all good. You got to quit being a hypochondriac. There's nothing wrong with you." And I looked at him and said, "I don't want to live like this. I can't. I'm dying." He locked me up for 3 days in a mental institution. I couldn't leave the hospital. They would have arrested me if I tried to leave the doctor's office.
They acted you for that?
They put me in a 5150. They held me. They wouldn't let me out. I couldn't quit crying because I went in there and I said, "Something's wrong with my body. I feel like I'm dying. Help me." So they put me in lockup. So for 3 days.
I am so I hear stories. People, and I'm not trying to be negative or be unbelieving towards anybody's story or anything, but when you tell me that you've gone through all of these things, right?
Still going through it, Paul. Still going through it. They won't take the staples out. When my gallbladder went bad because of my implants, they didn't ask me if I was allergic to metal, which I am. They put 3 metal staples on my liver. And I have not felt well since the day I had my gallbladder removed. Matter of fact, my symptomatic diagnosis to get my gallbladder out, not a test, a symptomatic diagnosis: bloating, cramping, can't eat prime rib without gas and hurting. "Oh, we're just going to take your gallbladder out." They didn't tell me they were leaving anything in. And if they did, they hid it in such fine print that you didn't know. So now I am struggling with the medical field. Just like, I went to a doctor here in Wyoming, told him I need my implants out and I need to pass a EKG and my blood work. He did my EKG and blood work. He says, "You're too unhealthy. I won't approve of you to go to California and get your implants out." He saved my life by doing that. You know why? I was going to go back to the original implant doctor. He would have not done me right. I would not have these implants in my hand. I might even be dead right now. I went to a guy in Idaho, which works out of Wyoming. In Wyoming, plastic surgeons do not need a health release to cut you open. You could be dying of a heart attack and have blood diseases and disorders, and they'll cut you open. They don't care. Give me the money. Give me the money. California won't. California won't. They wouldn't touch me. California wouldn't have taken my implants out. I was too sick.
This is absolutely insane. Listen, before we go a bit further, there's Chris, Spice Knight. She comes in and she said a couple things here. First, she says, "Successful live." Thank you, Chris. She says, "Where can an individual get such blood tests done? As a retired nurse, I didn't even know they could test for those issues." And that should tell you something alone.
Okay, so I have spoken to several nurses, doctors, and I cannot, matter of fact, Billings Clinic right now is trying to find out where to get a titanium test, because the doctor goes, "We can't take those staples out till you prove you're allergic to them." I said, I shouldn't have to prove I'm rejecting something that you put in me without my knowledge. I paid $7,000. I paid $6,500 to put them in and get the nose fixed, and I paid $7,000 to get them out 16 years later. That's a cheap surgery. Right now, the going cost is $12,000 to have a plastic microsurgeon remove your implants. $12,000.
Are you kidding me?
No, and they lied to me. My doctor, Dr. Dersham Shaw, told me, "This is a lifetime device. if it doesn't break. So you got 10 years warranty if it breaks that we will cover to get it replaced and put back in. He lied. It's not a lifetime device. Staples are not a lifetime device that are on my liver. Nothing is lifetime in this human body because God designed it so perfectly to destroy viruses, plastics, metals, slivers, wood, you name it. The body pushes it out. So right now, Chris, I cannot find a titanium test. They will not test for silicone, but the breast implant illness, guess what? It's like every other illness in the world. It's symptomatically diagnosed.
Sure.
There is no root cause medicine.
She also says, I'm so glad I didn't allow my mom to have implants after her inflammatory breast cancer, double mastectomy. I couldn't believe how much the medical providers tried to push it on her. Because the whole thing is like, oh, you're not going to like the way you look when we've taken this thing out. Wow. And it's all for money. In the end, it's all for money because they know. I'm sure they know already. I'm sure there's tests out there already that say that it's not good for the body, that it could hurt. And there's all these women in the world that are putting all the silicone in their body. There's people in Colombia, there's people in Brazil that literally use household silicone in their body just because there's people on the streets that do this underground. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, it's a whole underground thing of people who are getting sick because they have unnatural silicone in their body. Chris says, definitely believe that it would bring on PTSD. I can't stand the way doctors treat humans and the power they have over us. And says, I was working 16-hour days, 7 days a week in healthcare. I gave up my license at the start of the pandemic because I was tired of the politics that are in healthcare. And she says, I took care of individuals and witnessed so many miracles after doctors gave up on their patients. And I guess she's talking about COVID and people who were sick. And I mean, we could get into the conspiracy theories all we want, you and I. And I'm, I
want to because I believe it's all a lie.
There's so much that is a lie,
Since cavemen. Okay, we have got viruses, and I just want to say a few things about what happened when I got the implants out. Again, when I woke up in 2019, I called my ex-anniversary because when I woke up, within a day, I started having PMS cramps. I started having hormonal fluctuation. Literally, I lost 10 pounds overnight. My skin went from yellow to pink. I have since then, found out, I got before and after pictures like you said. The thing that bothered me the most was I felt like I could take my first deep breath in 16 years. I did not realize I wasn't using my lower lungs because of the weight of those implants. They're not that heavy, but they are that heavy. When I realized he took the muscle off of my heart wall that protects my heart wall is when I realized how dangerous that surgery really was. And so when he removed, Dr. Freeman in Idaho Falls removed my implants, he literally had to take out intercostal muscle. That means he left a hole in my chest because it was all scar tissue and gross. If he'd have left it there, it became a tumor. And right now I want to go back to the cancer thing that she was talking about. Listen, I have a couple ladies in my private group. I have a private group called Implant Rejection Disorder, IRD. I'm trying to coin a new term. I'm trying to get people to recognize all implants are subject to rejection. The medical field, Chris, you would know this, it's called implant rejection it's called foreign body rejection. But they only like to consider that being hearts, lungs, livers, eyes, a foreign body that you put in. They don't want to consider an implant, a titanium staple or a breast implant, a foreign body. So I came up with a new term, implant rejection disorder. And the overcoming PTSD has been the hardest. I did 2 years of counseling. I came to grips with a lot of stuff. But when I woke up and I felt the death feeling had left somewhat, I felt I could breathe. That's when I started to cry, and my sister-in-law, she's like, don't cry, it'll make it worse. You're okay. And I took some CBD. That's what I lived on, 5,000 milligrams CBD They forced me to take antibiotics that I was allergic to, or I couldn't have the surgery. They forced me to take a pain med that I'm allergic to, or they would not have the surgery. I had to sign, and they would monitor me. So right away, I got hives and rashes. I was nauseous from the medications. But as soon as I woke up, my sister-in-law, she put the 5,000 thing down my throat, and within a minute, I was calming down with the, like, I can't believe I did this to myself. And then within a year, Paul, 2020 came. I got in a bad relationship, captured a lifetime virus. I got COVID. I got RSV. I got shingles. I was in 1 year, I had 4 different viruses fighting in my body on top of breast implant illness. And I'm not ashamed to come out with whatever has happened to me. It isn't like I can change it, and hiding it gives the devil enemy power. Whatever you want to believe your enemy is, life, the devil, evil, dark. If you keep it hid, whether it's I had breast implants that made me sick and I don't want anybody to know because now I look normal and I'm okay, good for you, but it will haunt you. The lady that had the abortion, it will haunt you if you don't bring it out. Any of the things you hide is power. It's power to destroy your mind. And so I had to overcome what I was feeling, where I just didn't want anybody to know everything that's happened to me. But when they told me I had to wear a mask in 2020, I did not have PTSD from my rape until that day. That day, I went back to being raped when somebody put a T-shirt over my face to try to keep me from yelling and told me to shut up. And when the government told me to put something over my face and shut up, I literally went back to that moment. And I hadn't been back to that moment since the day that moment happened, because I decided to just let it go. I was leaving Oregon. The guy was a predator. He had already 3 women who complained, but they were all leaving town. So none of them stayed to fight it, because he predatored on women that he knew were leaving town. He watched them pack their houses. So I had to leave the next day. Nothing I could do about it. He started crying after the fact, begging me not to tell his wife and his family, and sicko, okay? And so I dealt with it, I thought, until the government said mask up, and that's where I went into counseling. I didn't go in for the boobs. I didn't go in for idiot. I went in for the bad relationship and the COVID type thing, because I wasn't fitting in. I couldn't. 9 broken noses, 2 surgeries. I can't breathe with something on my face. I can't even wear glasses because it hurts so much. So I'm always squinting to see. And and it's not about vanity. It's about the headaches I constantly have, because I have 4 root canals. Right away, my teeth started going bad. I never was the healthiest, and that's the lie I want to stop. Plastic surgery needs to go off of your health record. If you have a poor health record, you're not a candidate for any foreign object, a knee, a hip, a joint, nothing, because your body will reject it. So I went into what's called mast cell activation. That can be deadly. I became allergic to everything, Paul. I ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I almost went into anaphylactic shock. Never been allergic to peanut butter. I literally can't be in crowd cigarette smoke. Literally, I get sick and nauseous. Everything offends me. My neighbor's dryer vents, I don't have any chemicals in my house. I can't use bleach. I can't use Comets. I can't use cleaning stuff. No, nothing. I have to use vinegar, baking soda. I can't eat regular foods. I can't eat processed. Everything is natural. This is like everything. I struggle with my health still. I have a doctor's appointment this Friday. I went to all the way 2 years it took me to see a naturopath. All she could do, the same thing as medical, except for hers were natural. Prescribe, prescribe, prescribe. You can take all of this you want. If your body's in fight or flight, you're wasting your money. It's being flushed out. Your body can't process it. So now I've been 5 weeks on naturopath stuff like this, and I'm living on my toilet for the first hour and a half every morning. Constant. In with the food, out with the food. So I'm getting, malnutrition's real. My mom, in the last stages of her life, when I moved here 10 years ago, was because she was dying of malnutrition, because she had over 15 foreign objects in her body, cages, rods, a mesh from the 80s they left in there. Guess what they said about the same thing they're saying with me. Too dangerous to take it out. Sorry about your luck.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling me.
No, yeah, I just recently watched a documentary on YouTube. It's called The C Word. And they easily talk about that cancer is a preventable thing in your life, like Absolutely. On every level.
Absolutely.
And yet none of the stuff that we talk about in the news and the media is about preventative care. It's
No, it's
all about after you've gotten cancer. Oh, by the way, now you're in the system. Now you have to go and get this. Now you have to get this kind of medicine, and this is the way we do it. So there's the machine.
no.
You're getting pushed into the cancer machine. Oh, and don't forget to do a walk on Sunday afternoon, and for the Susan G. Komen Foundation that gives her $4.5 million a year because she runs it for us.
Right. Well, back to the cancer thing, Paul. I actually have Evelyn is her name. She's in my private group. She was a breast cancer survivor, and they put implants in her. She started struggling right from the beginning, told them something was wrong. She got in a car wreck. It broke. They ignored her, that it was painful. It swelled up. It took months. Now she's dying. She's in end-stage liver failure. So that's why I kind of went into some PTSD again about my liver, because all the symptoms she told me about that were happening to her, from the bloating after you eat to the yellow skin to the fatigue, were all her symptoms. They're way past that now. She's got ammonia in her blood, I mean, the whole thing. And but we're believing God for miracles for her. But I believe it's a crime to put a foreign object in someone who just survived breast implant, breast cancer.
This conversation really leads me, unfortunately, towards what's happening today in what they're allowing children to do to themselves. I mean, you were a 40-year-old plus woman. No offense to you, right? But you were a 40-year-old plus woman that went to go get surgery for her nose and was in some way cajoled into getting breast implants for her. And then not only that, breast implants that she didn't want. And then on top of that, a botched surgery. The guy didn't know what he was doing, obviously. He messes up your nose. He messes up your body. And let alone you're 40-something years old at the time. What does a 15-year-old, what does a 12-year-old, what does any kid know? And I just recently watched an episode with Joe Rogan. It was just a short video, but he's on with this guy that has a TV show, Adam Ruins Everything, is a host, and he says to Adam, he goes, okay, so these kids say that they're boys, or these kids say that they're girls, and that's not the sex that they are. Okay, so let them be that. Period.
Thought I was a boy.
Hold on.
Nose, riding bikes with my brothers, fist fighting with my brother who broke my nose. I was a complete tomboy to the end. If I would have had the option, heck yeah, I'll be a boy, because we get better. Boys get better. Why do you think I became I worked on drilling rigs. I was one of the first women in California to be on Western Bell. That was the first girl they hired. I worked for Pyramid. I worked for Halliburton. I was casehold engineering. I worked with explosives and radiation, downhole.
Wow.
Matter of fact, when I came home from Texas engineering school, I was 2 years in with my implants, and I came home, and within a month of working with Halliburton, I was in liver failure. And I went into the hospital in Bakersfield, and they didn't address the breast implants, the titanium staples, anything like that. All they did for 3 days was fill me with every kind of antibiotic they could. And on day 3, when they decided to let me out, well, you're better now. I said, well, what caused it? Well, we don't know, because guess what they said? First, they said you're an alcoholic. You're a closet alcoholic, and that's the only reason your liver could be failing. I said, I want you to do a hair follicle test right now. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. You test my hair right now. And they did. They came back. You're right. You don't have any alcohol. They wouldn't believe me, but they never asked about foreign objects in my body, which is very troublesome. Going back to symptomatic medicine, no root cause medicine. So I'm going to this doctor on Friday, Ms. Dr. Willie, and I worked 2 years to get to a naturopath who was worthless for me, completely worthless. She said, here, go to the surgeon. If you want those staples out, go to the surgeon. You already know what's wrong with you. I offended her because I know my body. She sent me to the surgeon. The surgeon called and said, don't come. You're wasting my time and yours. You have no diagnosis. Go back to a real doctor. Start over. Try again. So that's where I'm going. It took me 2 years to get into a naturopath. Now I'm going back to a regular doctor on Friday, and I'm going to try to be sweet, and I'm not going to go in and go, prove it's not my staples. But that's basically what I'm going at. Prove it's not my staples, dude. There's an elephant in the room. My liver hurts. Now, did I tell you they MRI'd me? because the naturopath did do that. She said, how about if we MRI it and I show you there's nothing wrong with your liver, then we just leave the staples alone? Absolutely. I went into the MRI. The tech goes, what are we looking for? I said, I want to make sure the 3 titanium staples are in placement and they don't have scar tissue. He said, we won't see that with an MRI. You need a CAT scan. Why would she send you for an MRI to find scar tissue? That's just not going to work. And he said, but we'll find, if there's something wrong, we'll find it with your liver. Sure enough, they found a cyst on my liver. Okay, I have a cyst on my liver, but it's small. So they're going, we just like to watch small cysts grow because it just might not, unless you're having problems. And I am. I can't eat without illness. I'm fatigued. I can't get anything done. I literally called last week and I was having a meltdown on the phone and got to talk with the nurse. And you know what the nurse said, Chris, you're going to love this. She said, oh, breast implants can't do all that to you. I said, back your truck up. And before I get there, you better research breast implant illness. And you better have your doctor on board with that as well, because I want it in my file. Breast implants can cause all those issues. And now your titanium staples are causing these same issues at a different level. Because the body went from fighting big antigens to finding particulates, including on my liver. So what I believe is on my liver, what that cyst is silicone particles. I have actually a polyp in the back of my throat where my tonsils were removed. I now have a polyp of probably silicone because it's still an out. The tonsil was where stuff would come out. It's a part of your it's part of your cleansing. I have no filters left. Gallbladder, tonsils, adenoids, appendix. They took them all. On my first, I'm going to tell you something. This is where you know if you shouldn't have anything. My first pregnancy, I had a miscarriage because I had a hostile wound because it was a foreign object. Second pregnancy, which is my first real live pregnancy, I rejected it so much that I was in the hospital with toxemia trying to keep from dying from the pregnancy. My son came out a blue baby because he was stuck in there. We both had transfusions. 10 years later, I got a letter from the Riverton Hospital said, you might want to get tested for AIDS because we found a whole bunch of AIDS-filled blood in our donation center. And both me and my son had to get tested every so often to make sure we didn't have AIDS. My second pregnancy, which was my third, lived on antibiotics, literally shunted my arm, stayed in my arm for months because I was so sick trying to keep a pregnancy, bladder, kidney infections.
I'm so taken aback that it's not like a one-time thing. It's over and over and over and over and over. And each time that you, and the weird part to me is that each time that you feel something, you've gone to them and you've gone, hey, bro, no, not really cool with this. And they're like, nah, that's not what it is. And you're like, no.
Take antibiotics. Sure, okay. Take antibiotics. Here, take licorice root. Here, take this. Take artichokes. Take this. Take that. You'll be okay. You can live with those staples the rest of your life. You can live with those implants. Plenty of women do. Look at Dolly Parton. Do you know that Cher got them? But she had them for a hot second and got them out because they made her feel bad. But she's not screaming it off the rooftops. They probably paid her to stay quiet. Do you know that Marilyn Monroe was injected with real straight silicone in her face? Free flowing silicone in her cheeks? No wonder she went mad. Okay, no wonder she was depressed. I had a mental breakdown with them secured inside of a silicone shell. I felt the dis-ease in my brain.
I mean, the story of Marilyn in general, just from the beginning, it's an absolute just torrential downpour of insanity, that life.
Yes.
I mean, talk about getting picked apart and eaten bone piece by bone piece up to the ligaments and everything in between, and then the marrow, and oh my God, they took that woman apart, destroyed her. That's such a depressing story.
Dolly Parton glorifies it. She glorifies that character-shaped body that looks like that.
But I think that there's a lot of grooming there as well over the years. There's a lot of there's a lot of also the hold them to something mentality that these people who have money and who have have somebody who follows you around, who takes the picture at the right time, who does the right thing to keep you in the loop, to hold you down so that you don't have the ability to do certain things. Do you know what I mean, right? Because then they have you, and then you go, oh shit, well I'm gonna just go along with it because if I don't, I don't know what happens. You know.
They probably pay. She probably doesn't have to pay to have them removed every 10 years because she's a spokesperson for breast implants. They are overfilled. I guarantee it. They're not under the 600-700 that they're supposed to be. Anytime you see really large.
Look at the size of her breasts. I mean, her breasts are something out of a movie, out of a cartoon.
She's either got implants stacked or they've made a special one which is not even on the market. You cannot have that big a breast without stacking implants in there.
I've seen women who have had like triple X boobs, and it's just
It's against the law. It's against the law.
It's absolutely horrible and the worst thing to look at in the world. Two, why? And okay, do you? But why? And like,
it's a lie.
You know, listen.
It's a lie about
we're glorifying in this world things that are just not real.
Amen.
And unfortunately, right? And I understand it to some level. We're now living in a world that's not as real as it used to be. We're living in an existence in which now we're able to manipulate our face, manipulate our gender, manipulate our visual interface, manipulate what we create through just words. And we're only, just a couple of years into this thing called AI. Another 5-10 years into the future with AI, and oh my God, what's going on? How much are we genetically altering ourselves? How much are we how much are we implanting into ourselves in the future? And how much of what you're talking about and the PTSD that you're talking about and this rejection that happens,
right?
There will be some kind of futuristic mental breakdown of people who can't accept the technology into their bodies.
So on note, think back how go back to when we first started putting the microchips in dogs. Do you know that they were an experiment for the mark in our to see? And you know that the dog's life expectancy went from 16 to 8 to 9. You're good if you get your dog for 9 years. Because they got a chip in them. I never knew that. I did not chip my dog. And then the vet was like, why? I said, because I don't want a foreign object. Matter of fact, I wish I didn't have to do the rabies. I wish I didn't have to do all the poisons. But I have to obey the law. And AI, what they do, when you see a 90-year-old or 80-year-old getting a hip, they're practicing medicine. They're practicing medicine on these old people. There's no reason they should undergo something.
Why can't you just put the implant, right, inside of their collar? Why do you have to put it in the body? Oh, because what if the dog's not wearing their collar? Well, then what kind of shitty owner are you?
Right. Yeah. Well, mine doesn't wear a collar for 2 reasons. It just messes their hair.
I only put mine on two times, right? So when he's at work,
right,
or when we're riding the motorcycle. But when as soon as we can, for me, it's like a pair of shoes for him.
Or a bra. Take your bra off.
He has this little chest harness. We're out in the street. We're running around. He has this little thing and this noise, and I can hear him. All for me, so that I can feel more secure. Because I don't wear a leash with the kid. He's totally unleashed, and he's an absolute gem. So, Moose is amazing. Moose, I won the lottery with that kid, like on so many levels. But let's reconnect to what we were talking about, and also let's overview some of the things that you wanted to talk about, because we've been all over the place, right?
Right.
We did talk about your PTSD and we also talked about some other things. And I jokingly just said, hey, we're going to be in the future where we're going to be willing to like start doing anything and cutting ourselves open and taking things out. And you at one point even were contemplating figuring out how to take out your own breast implant because you were that freaked out about it. And you were like, fuck it, I'm done it myself. Give me a razor and let's go to town.
You know, and that's a real thing out there in the breast implant industry. So I'm on lots of groups and pages trying to help women navigate through this process when the light clicks on and they realize all their symptoms were from that. They say, I just want them out. I feel like just ripping them out. I'm like, I get that. I was there. That's how I feel about these titanium staples. I got constant inflammation in my liver. It hurts all the time. If you feel your organs, there's something wrong, but they won't associate that with those titanium staples because there's accountability and there's correlation. Anytime you get correlation to an illness from an implant, the FDA has to be notified. So that means this doctor will have to notify the FDA that I rejected these titanium staples. That's a whole crap show for a medical professional. It's putting his license.
Right, because then it leads to massive amounts of lawsuits from every single direction, and then then at one point or another, breast implant whole industry gets killed off because that becomes massive lawsuits for every single company that's ever made them in directions of this, that, and the other. And if you can put one together with the other, that's it. You just destroyed a massive industry that they don't want to have destroyed because it keeps their ideology going, which is we need to keep you younger looking. We need to keep you in the machine for as long as possible so that we can keep putting meat on the bones for other people to keep eating off of your bones, in essence. Just like we were saying with Marilyn Monroe, just like we were saying with anybody, just like we're saying with look at Britney Spears, for God's sakes, and the videos that she's making.
Oh, so
my
sad.
God, inside of a mansion on top of a pole dancing to songs that she wrote 20 years ago, and like just
can't imagine what she's going through as a childhood star with her dad and everything. So I would never like judge, but I'm going to tell you, mental illness is in our face. And it's becoming an okay way to be. Just let your illness shine. You know, it's okay. Let everybody just be broken. Then we all are okay. Instead of
it's almost the mentality of like everybody gets a star at school.
That's it.
So even those who are sick, you guys get stars too. And so it's like, so wait, everybody gets a star just for, well, yeah, I get the idea on some level, right? Where it's like, we all should have our own star because we are stars in the universe and we're all beautiful. I get it. I get it. But when every single person has the right to change the rules for everybody else by just making one vote, then we all start wearing gray. Right. Because the color of your shirt offends me. The sound of your voice offends me.
Accountability. We can't be offended. And I worked with a chiropractor for 2 years, which was a godsend. And he said, if something offends you, you have the problem, not them, you. You're being in judgment. You are being a critical person. You're not being accepting. So he told me, you can't judge the women that still got implants. You can't judge them. You got to go, good for you. It looks good on you. I'm happy for you. I hope you can keep them forever. And back to
it's radical acceptance, right? I've been talking about this a lot lately, and this is why, 19 days ago I started this back up, is because of this event that I met at, and I've been saying this story over and over again, but I went to this event. A woman met me. She pointed out that she knew who I was, and that she'd been watching my videos in the past. And that she was kind of upset on some level that I was not doing my stuff anymore. And so it really gave me like this thing that was like, yo, like, believe it or not, Paul, like people are watching your content, and believe it or not, Paul, even if it's only one person who watches this as a replay later, holy crap, you're actually doing something here. And so, yeah, I totally get it, Betty. I understand. And, I think we lost her there for a second. She's back. And so, yeah, it's a heavy load, this life that we lead and we're living. But let me get into some of these comments here. Okay, you're fine. She goes, Chris says, I'm greatly enjoying this live. Great content. She goes, too much BS is glorified. Mental health is real, 100%. It needs to be properly recognized and addressed. And then says mental health. She says medications is not the resolution; it adds to the problems. Yeah, 100%. As said in a couple episodes ago, what we're doing is waiting for something to happen. Like the guy said, you have depression. You're depressed because you have depression, and it's like, no, that's not why I have depression. I have depression because I have trauma and drama in my past that I didn't deal with correctly, and that subsequently led to me having issues and problems with my mind and my body, which led for me to feel bad, and then I started having depression, and that's why I have depression.
For me, it was illness. Illness is a top reason why a lot of people get whether it's a diagnosis of an illness or a true feeling the illness. When I got to a point where no one would believe I was ill, that's when my brain broke and say, it doesn't matter, just leave, just don't be here anymore, whatever. But I wanted to talk about this CBD product that my best friend makes, Amazing Herbal Creations.
Yes, please.
I wouldn't be where I'm at without this.
Put it laser light technology. Put it a little closer also, and I think we also you also gave me the links to this, and it's in the links that we've shared.
Yes. The point of it is you can feel what it does. Right away you feel, I have what's called POTS. It's a heart issue, and it came from the implants where and I'm not in a flare right now, where I could be sitting down, if I stand up, my heart raises at least 20 to 30 beats a minute. You could sit down, it drops 20 to 30 beats a minute. Whoa. I did an experiment with the CBD. I stood up, my heart rate was 130. I took the drops, right away it dropped down to 100. But then it just calmed it, but then it started raising again until I sat down. My heart was, the first symptoms I had, Paul, and people aren't going to believe me, and no one did back then, I smelled gases in my face. I literally went back to the doctor and said, do you smell gas? He says, no, there's no gas in this room. I said, you know what it was, Paul? It was the degradation of those plastic implants. The chemical composure was causing a chemical smell. My body could smell it. Burnt my eyes. My eyes were always burning. My nose was burning. I smelled gases, and they really thought I was crazy. That was some of the things were in my file that added to them locking me down because I was crazy, because I could smell gas and burning. And I talked to a couple people, it was like, that was the chemicals in the implants, because there's a lot of metals, there's a lot of stuff in silicone to make those implants, right? And then I started itching, and I'd go to the doctor, and he said, there's nothing there. It was inside. And it got to a point where they weren't inside anymore. They became hives and rashes. Literally, 2 years
ago. So in the end, what it is here is either, for me, right, whether it was psychosomatic or whether it was absolutely physical, and then endorphins being created or some kind of chemical reaction, whatever. Me, as a human being, if I heard another human being say, I don't know what's up, it's been a couple months, but these things don't feel right to me, I want them out. And then the guy goes, no. You chose to have them, so you have to wait a certain amount of time before we can take them out anyways.
Or you have to be sick. A lot of these women that are having severe stuff, they won't even take them out. They have to pay for it. The medical insurance will not cover the removal, no matter how sick you are. And it's kind of an atrocity.
And that has to be, again, like you were saying, some kind of correlation to removal of the thing. Because if the insurance at one point or another says, yep, the reason that we took it out was because there was this foreign object in her body. Yes, she accepted herself and blah, 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 whatever else. But whatever it is that foreign object is obviously creating this negativity in her body. She took it out. We paid for it. Boom. Now they get sued.
Yep. So that's why we have to pay for it ourselves.
Wow.
And that's why I'm struggling getting the staples out of my liver. If I wanted to say one more thing before we wrap it up and everything, is that people don't really know what root medicine is anymore, blood medicine. It's all symptomatic diagnosis, and we've got to a point where we are being bullied by a medical institution that does not do what it was oath to do no harm. They are doing more harm, in my opinion, right now in this generation than they've done it back when they at least bloodletted and they cleaned you out. They were at least trying to get to the root cause. You know, the blood is bad. Let's get the blood out. They don't do that anymore. I was almost a year before I got a blood test at a doctor's office. I had hives and rashes, sick, and they wouldn't even take my blood. And I looked at him. He says, "Why? We're not going to find anything." I'm like, "Well, how do you know? What are you going to look for?" "Well, we'll test your." Sure enough, my LDLs were good. My
and also, you know, Betty, we also have to understand that what we're dealing with here in the end are yes men, right? People who went to school for 8 years said yes. People who went to school for 8 years, this is how it goes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they get out of school and they realize that everything that they have is super outdated on the information, right? And they're doing this thing trying to catch up while at the same time already being doctors, right? So literally they are practicing because
medicine.
they don't know any better, right? It's not, and then they get glorified on television, like as if there's a Dr. House in every single hospital.
God, I wish, man, Dr. House would have solved my issues years ago. You know, and I was laying in that hospital in liver failure.
And this leads me.
Saying,
hold on, Betty. This leads me to the next thing, right? Which is like my crux of a lot of what these conversations have been about, because I'm really trying to get into that mentality. I've been saying a lot lately, like I feel like I'm turning into a transhumanist, where like I actually feel that transhumanism is our next evolutionary step, like that's what we're next to do. And yet at the same time, it's like, but I hear stories like this and I'm like, oh no, we're not supposed to do any of that. And then I'm like, okay, well, if that's not the way to do it, and this is not the way to do it, and sitting in a cave with my son and my friend for 13 years just to write a book called the Zohar is not really the way to do it either, right? Or live this Buddhist lifestyles like Siddhartha, Herman Hesse story arc line. That's not the way to do it either. So it's like, so what is quote unquote the way, right? And then I find that no matter which way I look at, there's no real way you're supposed to go. That on some level, we're here to make mistakes. On some level, we're here to put breast plants into ourselves when we aren't supposed to put breast plants into ourselves.
Are you there?
On some level.
Someone called.
I know.
So it disconnected.
It happens. Yeah. On some level, I'm saying that
we can't hear you, Paul.
I was saying on some level, that we're meant to make these mistakes, that we're meant to do these things that we weren't supposed to do. And that is our life's journey. And that there is no one way, quote unquote, for how we're supposed to live this life. We're just supposed to live this life and make the mistakes and say the wrong things and accidentally bump somebody in the street and then fall in love and have a 35-year relationship from just the weirdest shit. That's this life. And yes. I think that the more that we are open and accepting of the ride, instead of trying to hold on to what we believe the ride is supposed to be, which leads me now to my next set of questions to you, because I think I know this about you, but I want to bring it up. In all of the things that you've dealt with that are super struggles, like, I mean, there's struggles here, right? I mean, real life pain. You have also found a way to reinvent, one. Two, you've also found this place of creative thing that you do, and I'll mention each one of those things that I'm saying. I'll mention them, and then the other thing is that you have this cesse de vivre, this of life, right? This love of life just because of life, and so these are three big subjects. But first of all, being able to reinvent yourself in the sense that you went from arm wrestling, you went to school for engineering, you did all these crazy manly.
sir, Paul, and I got injured in 1993, and I got taken out by a fellow CO who said women should not be correctional officers. Bulged 3 discs and fractured one in my neck in a training incident, weaponless training incident with no contact. I was learning a rear wrist lock. He spun out on me, took me down. He was on steroid. It took 3 more months for him to finally get fired. Chief of police son-in-law for steroidal use, hurt me on purpose and took me out of my career.
Right,
And that's when,
just trying to prove a point that a woman shouldn't have been there, kind of thing, and that guy was just a complete dick.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I wrote a paper.
And
I have a college degree.
So then let's go back to my points that I was trying to get at, and I don't mean to throw you off because that's just another story that I'm sure we could go into a whole thing. And so once again, this amount of reinvention needs to be awarded or at least recognized in your life, because that's it. To me, it's like the ultimate thing to have the c'est de vivre of life that is that we create. We create it by doing all of these different things. Like, at least that's how I've done it, right? Singer, actor, magician, producer, writer, director, whatever the fuck I want to be, I'm gonna be it. Oh, you know, a podcaster. That's what we're doing this year. You know, 365 podcasts, no matter what. You know, and so why not? You know, why not? And also, so we go through being able to do these things. Then also, you have this aspect of yourself of being able to create. Like, you're an artist. You also, like, you've done like full-on house construction, reconstruction, like ripping out freaking floors and like going down and grinding it out. And we're talking about, and now mind you, for those who are watching, we need to refresh that we're talking about the same woman who in the last 10 years of her life has dealt with this absolute degradation of her health. And she's still anyways, with the grinder, or on her roof, there, putting in nails and putting in. So that needs to be recognized. And then back to, I think my main question is, where does that come from?
God. God.
So you would have to say faith. It's just faith. That you know that
nothing, Paul, nothing I go through in this life is for nothing. Everything has a purpose, a reason. God has lit my path. He has guided my footsteps. He knew I would be a noisemaker for breast implants. He knew I could help stop any generational bullcrap in my bloodline. If I can't help the world, I can at least help my future grandkids. I believe everything I've went through, from the injuries to get me to this point where I can be in this small town in Whirlwind, Wyoming, being a massage therapist, telling people about the importance of cannabis as a plant. I am pro God's plants. I am pro God's way. God says, have faith, trust, don't be in fear, because fear is a disease. It is illness that cripples. Back to the PTSD. If I didn't have God, I wouldn't still be here. Back when I was having that breakdown, if I didn't have God, I wouldn't still be here. I wish I could see your face because it's so special. I don't understand why I can't see your face. I don't know if people can see mine or they're just seeing yours, but I just see a half blank screen. I
see you perfectly, by the way.
Okay.
I'll ask Chris, if you're watching, are you seeing both of us perfectly?
Yeah.
Just so we know, because something happened when they called her that it made the screen go poopy poopy.
Yeah.
And so if you see both of us, can you just give us a thumbs up, or can you put a comment down below that says, camera looks good, or I see the screen fine, or something like that.
To the comments. So it's God, and God gave me a lot of gifts, and with a lot of talent comes a lot of responsibility, and I was going to say that for you as well. And anytime you see someone who is uber talented and gifted, you're going to see the enemy coming in way harder than he does the sloppy Joe that doesn't do much with their life. So anytime you got people like you and me, A-type personalities, overachievers, we're going to have more of struggles in this journey than the average, but they're not struggles if we look at them as adventures to becoming a stronger human being. So every time the enemy has tried to take me out, I just said, you're going to regret that. you're going to regret that, because I'm going to overcome it and become more powerful because of the nonsense you caused for my life. And he'll hate it. One day he'll quit. He'll quit bugging me. Maybe it's when I'm dead. I don't know. I don't know. Can you hear me, Paul? Did we lose you?
No. I had my microphone turned off because there was noise in the background. I don't know if you see this truck right here, and I didn't want his noise and the brakes to make noise. But nonetheless, I was saying it's the same thing that Jamie was saying yesterday. That really, it's a can-do attitude. That even after everything that you've gone through, and even after everything that you've had to deal with, that in the end, it's a can-do attitude. Like if I'm in this situation, I'm here, bro. I'd much rather do something than just sit around and be like, oh, dude, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. Oh, crap, what are we going to do? Instead, it's just like, yo, dude, we got to do. So why don't we just get up and start doing, and then let's not worry about it and just keep moving. And, you know, so then the next thing is, did you take some kind of like course or something through your therapies and through stuff like that in which like it was about art? Like as a way of releasing your pain, or is that something that you just found on your own? Because I know that you do a lot of art and a lot of your stuff is very connected to you. So if you could like talk about that maybe.
Well, I'm running on a time clock. At 10 o'clock a.m., I take a screenshot of my countdown since I've had my implants removed. And so I need to capture that shot. But what I will tell you is I feel like anytime you have pain, grief, sorrow, sickness, illness, if you tap into the get out of the physical and you go more into the emotional, which is art, in my opinion, art is an emotional response. It will help heal you if you can write or learn to play a piano or all these things I'm trying to do. But because of my illness, it just keeps going backwards. Same with health. I'm trying to do push-ups, jumping jacks. Jumping jacks I had to quit. The more I push my body, the more it goes into fight or flight to protect me from something that's good for me, and which is a sad thing. And so I'm just taking it easy. But
No, you know what? I want everybody to hear what you just said, because there's actually like a really positive spin to that, which is that, you know, there's many things in our lives that we look at and we're scared to do because it pushes us into our vulnerable zone, or our, ooh, this kind of hurts zone, or like going to the gym, whatever it is, like any of those things, right? And so I kind of love the fact that you're saying, you know, even though it does hurt me, I know that it's pushing me towards something positive. I know that it's pushing me towards something because, and I know this because of, I'm still lasting. I'm still here. I'm still standing after everything that I've just told you about my life, everything we just went through, and I'm still strong. I'm still amazing, and I'm still observant, if you will, to my connection. And wow, what a journey!
Trust God. I feel the Holy Spirit moving in my life every day. The more adversity you have, the more strength I gather. It's just like one of those games where, you know, you gobble up all the power, you know. I feel like adversity is gobbling up the power. It's like, oh, give it to me. Instead of like, oh, poor me. It's like, oh, no, now I'm going to be stronger. New level, new devil.
Boom. Yeah. So yeah, you can take on your entire life. It's a massive perspective that it's not necessarily saying, you know, hey, throw me negativity in life, because then you're just this negativity acceptor and you're like, you know, like that's not it either. But if you look at it like, yo, I'm down for another lesson. Whoa, what a change, right? Look, I know you need to go, Betty, and you just said it. I know you only have you have like 3 minutes left. So if you wouldn't mind, really quickly, for anybody who wants to find you, could you please tell us what your socials are, how people can find you, and also if they wanted to join your private group, how they might join that. Go ahead.
Way to do it is you could just find me on Facebook, and it's totally under my name, Betty Jo Jax, and it'll say follow, but just send a message and then I'll add you as a friend. And then my private group is off of my Facebook page, Implant Rejection Disorder and Overcoming PTSD, and I only have a few requirements. You must be a girl, I'm sorry, guys. It's because we show breasts and people are vulnerable. And then I'm on TikTok, Betty Joe Jacks, and maybe the Place for Healing. I'll have to look, and I'll
No,
put them
no,
out
it's
there on my
fine. It's
Facebook.
fine. And for those of you out there that might have gotten upset, like I want a man's group, I'm absolutely positive that if you were to get in touch with Betty Joe and you're a man and you had an implant and it went wrong in some way, shape, or form, or whatever,
Yeah.
she would totally love to get in talks with you so that you could do or you could run that group so that for the men's side of things,
Yes.
I'm sure that's needed
Yes.
at this point.
And
Because I'm sure that there's men
I
out there that will say,
haven't men yet. I'm open to that. It just has to be something we all agree to in the group. And so it would be up for discussion.
yeah,
But
what's
thank you
the
for
thing?
having me on
Yeah,
your live, and I'm
my
glad I could
pleasure.
fill in your slot. What number were we? And it
This
wasn't
was
God.
this was 19. So if we go
Okay.
9 plus 1 is 2, so it was 2. 2 2.
Okay. 19. I got my implants out in 2019. Today's my explant anniversary. There's no coincidence with God. Everything is in His timing, and it's perfect. And this was perfect. I love you, Paul.
I love you, my dear. And thank you so much for coming on.
Okay.
And that was amazing. Thank you so
Okay.
much. We'll see you later, okay?
Okay. Bye.
Oh my God, another absolute banger of an episode. I mean, really, dude, I don't care what anybody says. Unfortunate that we can't do this and make it look better like I wanted, because I thought it would look much cooler. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because the information is what matters to the nation, my friends. Oh my goodness. Chris, I wanted to say before you leave, thank you so much with all of the comments. Thank you so much with all of the added stuff that you've put in. I really appreciate you. It's such a blessing to have you. And I just wanted to throw that out. Also, I just want to say, what an amazing episode again. Betty Joe Jacks, thank you so much for being here and being part of this. And for those of you who are watching this as a replay, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all of that. So if you would not mind, please go out into the world and do something nice for somebody else. And if you can't, do something nice for yourself. It does start with you. Number 2, don't get caught up in all the crazy stuff in this world, because if you do, then you just end up crazy. That's not good. And number 3, please like, share, subscribe, send this out to somebody who'd like to see it. And with that, my friends, I love you all, and I will see you all on the other side.